All right, welcome everybody to Inside the Coach's Office. I'm your host, Dan Murphy, along with my co host, Brian Barnes. And Brian, a long night last night that ended in a disappointing outcome for Detroit Tigers. They fall to Seattle 3-2 in a 15 inning marathon classic of a game that unfortunately ends with the end of the Tigers season. What are your thoughts?
Really hoped we'd be having a different conversation today. I picked the Tigers to win the series. I actually thought I bought into the feel good after game one, like it was gonna happen. I said that, thought they were gonna win in three, and that didn't happen. And then I think you predicted though that it would go five, and if Schoolball's pitching two dates, like the Tigers are gonna win. And so rough that didn't happen. And there's a lot of narrative that what an awesome series. It was an awesome series.
Yeah.
Narrative that it was an awesome game last night, a lot of drama, but but I think from a Tigers fan's perspective, that wasn't awesome. That was gut wrenching.
No,
Like that felt
no.
like the last month and a half. Like every game you could think of. I just felt like that played out exactly like it has. And so it was gut wrenching. The Tigers would get guys on base and we're like, yeah, we know what's gonna happen. We know what's coming. And so yes, it was pretty cool. I mean, a long game and for people who don't know baseball or don't always appreciate baseball, like that was pretty awesome. And that was definitely there was so much drama, but um gut wrenching for a Tiger fan.
Yeah, no doubt. It was the last 3 months of Tigers baseball wrapped up in one game. Like,
It was.
I mean, it was everything. It was Tarek Skubal being absolutely incredible, being the best pitcher on the planet. 7 straight strikeouts at one point, ended up with, I believe, 13 strikeouts for the game. Another one of the best playoff performances we've seen from a pitcher in a Detroit Tiger uniform, and really one of the best pitching performances ever in baseball, considering the circumstances. Um, but one thing I will say about Skubal, I kind of want to start with that a little bit because I think that's one of the big talking points coming for this game. Is I think a lot of fans wanted him to go one more inning. He got taken out at 99 pitches. I'm on the side of this is what Skubal's been. Man, he goes out and he lays it all on the line, but he puts a lot of emotion, a lot of energy into each inning, to each pitch, each at bat. And he's not the type to go 115, 120. He doesn't do it. That's not who he's been his entire career. And usually he starts to wear down around the 90, 95 pitch mark. And 100 has always kind of been that's it. You get to 100, that's it for Skubal. He's not coming out for another inning. And he left it all. He emptied the tank. He finished Raleigh with that 3 pitch strikeout, going to 101, finishing him off, which is what a moment. But I'm interested. What do you think, Brian, about Skubal coming out after 6 innings at 99 pitches?
Yeah, it's very easy for us to say, and I've said it before, hey, he's got to throw until his arm falls off. And this game five, and that's a lot on Twitter and social media. People saying like he needed to go one more inning at least. He's your best pitcher. Go finish the game. Whatever it is, and we don't know what those conversations were like between him and AJ Hinch and Chris Fetter and what the plan was. And you're right, it's sometimes, I mean, unless you've played baseball, right? And I didn't pitch at a high level. I think I pitched no higher than little league. But like if you pitch a long game, like it's throwing a ball at that intensity, like it wears on you. And sometimes we don't appreciate that as fans. I don't. I mean, there were times in my mind, yeah, I'm like, yeah, he's got to ride it out. And but you're right. He absolutely, as you said, emptied the tank at the end of that inning. And it's very hard to end like that and then kinda, like, crank it up one more, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One more time wherever you're at, and, maybe that's something, we don't have those stats in front of us, but I wonder if, pitchers, I'm sure it has been in history, they've developed that stamina, like, the longer their career goes,
Yeah.
right? And they're able to pitch longer into games, but, he just might be, you're right, that pitcher that doesn't throw a lot of complete games, but man, he's bringing it for that 6, 7 inning, sometimes into the eighth, and that's the expectation. But gosh, they were. It was. I mean, they were that close. Like I saw the
Yeah.
sentiment that he goes one more inning, you get right to Will Vest, and then we're not having this
That's what I was
conversation.
thinking. Yeah.
That's what people are always going to get back to, and that's a fair point. That is a fair point. Could he have gutted it out one more inning? But again, we don't know how he was feeling. We don't know any of that. We don't know where his head was at, and yeah, it was all like you said, extremely impressive considering the circumstances. And it was well documented. He didn't have a ton of success against Seattle previously, right? I mean, part of that was he pitched well, and
And not
obviously
getting run
they
support. Yeah.
obviously they don't score, right? But like we talked about early, right before the trade deadline or the All-Star break, when he got banged around a little bit. So I mean, considering that, considering Game 5, considering like guys couldn't hear stuff like when Naylor stole
Yeah.
third base, like
That was a
Z
big
being
play.
told, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, considering all of those. I mean, you're right. What an amazing performance. And I know we're gonna get to it at some point about whether or not he returns and at what price and at he's gonna set the pitching market. But maybe that is a good thought for fans everywhere. Okay, if he's not going to be that complete game 9 inning guy, is he worth getting the money he's probably going
400
to?
million. Yeah.
Right. So there's going to be a lot. It's going to be this is going to be such a dynamic, regardless of what the outcome of the game was last night. Such a dynamic offseason.
Yeah.
Very very interesting, very cool. Because like I missed it like when the Tigers were not relevant. The off seasons were just kind of, okay, here comes Mikey Matuk and we're just gonna, right. But like, no,
Yeah.
it's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah. It's shaping up to be one of the most fascinating off seasons I can remember as a Tigers fan, honestly. For me personally, I'd say the most fascinating was when they first became relevant in my lifetime is when there was talks of them getting Pudge. And they were
Mhm.
just, I mean, nobody talked about the Tigers. I mean, they were dead
Mhm.
in this town. They were dead nationally for years. And then all of a sudden, you heard they were going to go get Pudge. And you thought, okay, because they had just gotten Dave Dombrowski the year prior. And you thought, okay, maybe they're going to get serious. And then when you heard the rumors of them getting Pudge, you thought, okay, maybe this is finally going to happen. They're finally going to get serious. And that kind of started that whole run. But I
I
just want
don't.
to stick on Scoop. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Like, I don't foresee this happening with Scott Harris and Chris Ilitch, but when that happened, and say what you want, about Dave Dombrowski, like he did some awesome things here in Detroit. Granted, he did trade Eugenio Suarez, but that's another story. But like he did awesome things here, right? And when that year they signed Pudge, the following year they signed Maglio Ordonez, and then you
Mhm.
just kind of felt like every year with Dave Dombrowski, okay, something's happening. Victor Martinez, Prince Fielder, Justin Upton, like you go down the
Yeah.
list. So that was super cool. And like we said, we don't foresee that happening now. Like granted, okay, maybe it is because they
It
were
is the
in on
final.
Bregman. Like
Yeah.
maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that is, but that made it super cool. And this is gonna sound like our geeked out baseball fandom. Like the winter meetings are kind of neat when
Oh yeah.
when your team has something like they're going to be in discussions for free agents or trades, and so this is a pretty cool time to be a Tiger fan.
Yeah, and I go back to that, because for me that was like the first time that showed that like maybe not so serious that Michael Ilitch was serious, but maybe that he was finally going in the right direction. Like
Yeah, but
they're making a move that because
do
not only that they got Dave Dombrowski and then they made that move for Pudge. It said,
mm,
okay, let's go. This is the start of something. And I feel like now we're at this point where we're waiting for Chris Ilitch
mhm.
and Scott Harris together to make that first real big signing. They haven't done it yet. They haven't made that big
No,
signing. They were close to getting Bregman. They were
right.
in the talks, but they ultimately never made the move. They got to make that move this
And
offseason.
you remember then, like the Mike Ilitch used to always say, "Hey, the Tigers got to show me some progress, and I'll be willing to put money into the organization,"
Yeah.
because he was getting criticized. Because remember at the time, I don't know if he was being criticized, but the Red Wings were killing it, right? And so the Red Wings were signing all those stars and trading for those stars, and Brett Hull and Luke Robitaille and Dominic Hasek and stuff, right? And so Mike Ilitch used to always say, "Well, you guys got to show me something first before we put,
Yeah.
before I put some more money into it." Now, if Chris Ilitch has that same mentality, that's another story. But the Tigers have been in the playoffs the last 2 years, and
Now
they
would
were
be the
not
time.
gonna. Now would be the time. It's gonna be again critical offseason, extremely interesting offseason.
And just to circle back to Scooble a little bit, I just want to kind of hammer on this point, like with him going deeper into games. I would say if you're to make any critique of him, I would say that would be it. If he were to improve anything, it would be improve your endurance just a little bit more. Maybe it's tone down just slightly, tone it down just slightly, so you're not exuding so much energy every at bat, every inning, and as well as find ways to get out of at bats a little bit quicker. Like if you can take a pitch or
Yeah,
two off and a bat, maybe you don't go to full counts, maybe you don't get the strikeout, but maybe you get a quicker, ground out. Working that way to get out of innings that's just a little bit quicker, so you can get maybe an extra inning. Throughout the course of a season, maybe you average a couple extra at bats throughout a game. That would be
yeah,
the one thing to get Scooble, I think, to that. If there is another level for him to reach, that would be the next level.
yeah. And I wonder if this plays into it or not. The obvious comparison is Verlander, right? Just
Yeah,
because elite pitching, number one starter on the Tigers, right? He's the comparison. And Verlander, they talk about how the ALDS or the AL Championship Series against, or it was the ALDS against Oakland, right? Game 5 in
yeah.
Oakland, and Verlander, I think he did it 2 years in a row, of course. But like Scooble, I wonder this too. He had an injury at a fairly young age. Scooble did,
Yeah.
and right, and so I still wonder if I mean maybe it's contradicting myself because you're right. He is dialing it up in the game, but I wonder if like the pitch count is still something the organization is aware of. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't I don't think so. I really think it's more of just a total endurance thing, because you can tell there's been some games this year where you could see it. Like he's getting in that 90 pitch range and you could see the exhaustion on him.
Mm-hmm,
Like, and maybe in some of those games, maybe it's, weather was an issue and things like that. But
hmm
like Verlander, and obviously you brought it up, like he is the comparison. He'll always be the comparison for Scoop as long as he's in this town.
Yep.
Verlander had a way of kind of pacing himself in a way. Like he would, his fastball might have been 96, 97 most of the game. And then once he got into the sixth, seventh, eighth, he started dialing it up to the 99, 100,
Right.
101.
Right.
Where Scooble, you're seeing 100 right out the gate, and you
hmm
throughout the entire game. And it could be questioned. Maybe that is the best approach. Maybe it is the best approach to have your best stuff
hmm
from pitch one through pitch, 100. And maybe you don't get those extra couple of bats or that extra inning you'd want from them. But that would be my one critique. If there is one, you can make a Scooble, because that one extra inning would have been huge. It
Would have
would have
been.
been huge, and it could have made the difference
Could
for
have.
them, advancing the playoffs or not. But more than that, more than Scooble, I mean, I don't want to put anything on Scooble that it's his fault or anything like that, or he should have pushed harder to go one more inning or any of that stuff, because none of it's on him. None of losing this series, and especially losing this game, falls on him. It falls on the heart of the order. The heart of the order, 2 through 3, goes 0 for 23 last night, Brian. That is almost impossible to do at the major league level, to have the heart of your order do that. Um, I mean, just incredibly disappointing, and just kind of summarizes the entire second half of the season. Like
Yeah.
the heart of the order, really the whole lineup, but especially the heart of the order. They would get opportunities, guys on base, and they just cannot get the big hit. Last night they couldn't get it at all, a hit at all. But throughout the second half of the season, it's just they couldn't get a big hit at all. The big hit.
No. And this is where, as a fan, I'd love to be in the Scott Harris mind right now and saying, like, all right, where is this going? And what was your plan coming into this? Because we've had great conversations about the organization as a whole, right? And we think that Scott Harris believes the championship, like real legit World Series contending roster is down the road, right? Potentially down. If the Tigers don't make any moves, it's down the road. And so now, like you mentioned, so those three guys, again, they're not Scott Harris guys, the guys that people are focusing on, Colt Keith, Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green. They're at the age where and I brought this up before, like it's hard to change who they are. Like they're not all of a sudden going to become slap hitters that are going to hit 290, right? And maybe the power dips a little bit, and they're not changing, and they're extremely flawed, and we've talked about that before. And so it's bad. Like those guys, they are what they are, and it goes back to, yes, the deadline. Everybody talks about the deadline, and what we talked about, like, okay, they tried to get Bregman in the offseason, and I think it's obvious why, right? But at the deadline, if there's another hitter, maybe it's Naylor and not Suarez, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the Tigers are more, you know what I mean? Somebody like that to take pressure off those guys, because yes, they're still, like, I'm not saying they're going to be bad major league hitters the rest of their career, because Nick Castellanos didn't take off until he was 27, 28, and then the Tigers traded him. And so, it's not like Torkelson or Green are going to be bad baseball players, bad hitters. Are still developing. But holy heck, right now in the current makeup, I don't think, and I think you agree, they cannot be relied upon to carry this team, because they didn't. It's obvious they didn't in the last couple, right? They didn't do it. Especially, you know how I feel about Riley Green. I've said that. Like, I can't stand swing and miss strikeouts. I can't stand watching that, as an old school baseball guy, with his launch angle and all that other nonsense. I can't stand it. Torkelson, I wasn't as I wasn't as down on throughout the year, until recently. And the stat that I heard, which, and I didn't even notice it, is mind-boggling. He improved to 31 home runs, or he had 31 home runs, okay, after a down year last year, but he only had 78 RBIs. Like, that is saying, like, gosh, so that's probably a lot of solo home runs he's hitting,
Yep.
right? And he's not driving the ball into the gaps in other areas, right? And his OPS is whatever. Um,
It's a lot of all or nothing.
it's a lot
It's
of,
a
you're
lot
right.
of
It's a
all or
lot of all or nothing. And it's obvious how many times, I think small ball has gone away a little bit over the years, because we've talked about this, the money ball mindset and things like that, giving away outs. Teams don't want to do that. But holy heck, just simple moving the runner over, getting a fly ball to score a run. Those sort of things just didn't happen. Even last night, I think it was Baez, and I can't remember. I think it was McKinstry on third, and Baez, hits the ground ball to third, and he's out at the plate. Like little things like that. And Baez had a great series. I'm not
I'll give him a
bashing it,
little bit of credit.
but
I mean, he
yeah,
broke his bat,
yes,
and
it's
he
just,
had a
but
good game.
he did, and he had a great series. But I'm just saying, like, I can't. I'm sure it happened, but those situations, I just feel like the Tigers aren't gonna hit a fly ball and get this run in, right? Seattle, like in Seattle, they get a stolen base, they get a fly ball off of Skubal, and like you said, a big play, they're down one. The Tigers are down 1-0, like that, like little things like that.
Yeah, stick on that for a second. So
Mhm.
Naylor gets to second. I mean, a really just kind of, excuse me, swing for a double.
He
I
did.
mean, but he
Mhm.
gets to second, right?
Mhm.
And just incredible baseball IQ. A veteran hitter in that moment finds a way to get himself to third base, and then a fly ball brings him in. Huge run,
Manufacturing runs.
obviously.
Yep.
Manufacturing runs, but just the veteran presence and the IQ, baseball IQ, to understand how am I going to find a way to get myself to third so I can set us up in a good situation here, that I
So.
can be driven in without a hit. And he did it. He found a way to get to
Mhm.
third, and he found something in Skubal, and whether he was smart enough to understand it was going to be tough to communicate because of the crowd and whatever it was, he found a way to get to third. And those are things that those are plays the Tigers just
I
don't do.
think.
They just
I
don't
think.
make those plays. And they cannot get guys from second to third. How many times
Right.
did we see just in the extra
Right.
innings alone where guys were on second with no outs, and they never moved?
Yep. I think everybody would say Zach McKinstry is probably that guy for the Tigers that
Yeah.
has that, feels like that, like moments like that baseball IQ where he could create stuff on the base pass. But you're right. Other than that, not too many. And were you surprised, Dan? I know when AJ Hinch would pinch hit, it was matchup specific for the most part. But I'm still surprised with the way the game was going. You didn't see Jahmai Jones. We didn't see Andy Ibanez. Extremely shocked. extremely shocked at
There
all, especially
wasn't
for
situations though
there wasn't,
from a
but
matchup perspective.
I agree. I just wonder though, with the way the game was going. I mean, Dan, I think they had in the 15 innings, they had 8 hits.
I
Like,
know, I
like
know,
right. Other
but
than
I just don't
care,
know where exactly you could say
I
like, yeah, put have Jemai Jones face get a righty matchup as opposed to having your left-handed hitter, hit against the righty. Like that's a tough
Parker
move
Meadows,
to make.
Parker Meadows. I don't know. Like
Maybe,
right.
but you're still playing the averages in the
I
match.
know. I get it.
I
I get
can't
it.
kill them
I
for it.
get it.
They
No,
can't kill them for it now because Seattle didn't have a lot of lefties. The really only lefty they used is Spire, and
no,
they used him
correct.
early, so they
I,
didn't really have
I,
opportunities. I guess from a matchup
I
perspective, they didn't really
agree.
have it. The only one you could say is maybe Wenzel Perez.
Well,
You could
that's
have
an,
put Wenzel Perez.
yeah, I agree. That's another one. I just, like, there were some guys that were extreme. Okay, I mean, everybody throughout the lineup, other than Game 4, everybody was a right as a liability. Like, you're never gonna pinch hit. Okay, the one time with Riley Green, but you're not gonna pinch hit for him. You're not gonna pinch hit for Spencer Torkelson. Probably not gonna pinch hit for Dingler or Baez. But like, but everybody else is on the table. Like I don't. I mean, of course the numbers are the numbers, and that's how he's managed all year.
But
I guess
who's
I was
everybody else? I mean, let's get into it. Who's everybody else? So I guess Meadows would be the one that he just looked lifeless at the plate.
Colt
But
Keith looked
his
lost.
defense, his
I know.
Meadows saved a
I
lot.
know.
Meadows saved,
No.
I think, a couple hits with his defense last night in those extra
Yes,
innings.
and
So
you're
you
right,
can
and that's
say
what
like,
he
hey, maybe he didn't bring it with the
correct.
bat, but he did save some hits on the other end defensively with his defense.
Correct. Colt Keith was one. You could say McKinstry. Gosh,
I would
Torres
have a
playing.
tough time taking. I would have a tough time taking
I know.
McKinstry out. He's one that actually got a hit.
I know.
I
Well, as
don't
an
know, man. It's
infield
tough. It's
single, I
tough to
know
really
it.
pinpoint
I
a
agree.
guy in a
I
spot.
when thing. I mean, and this is what happens when things don't go your way. We nitpick little things, right? Obviously, and I'm sure you're gonna like we just nitpicked Tarek Skubal not going another inning. I'm sure we'll nitpick. We nitpicked the bullpen guys in the
Yeah.
order that they came in. But this is what happens, and I, I don't know. I mean, I think this happens too in all sports, but especially baseball. It like we said, it is what it is. Like you can't recreate the lineup. I mean, Hinch really can only do so much, right? Your guys are your guys. They're not hitting. This is what they are for this is who they are, right? And so in my mind, I'm like, oh, could you manufacture this? Could you bunt? Could you? I mean, like you can't, right? You're in Game 5 of the ALDS. Like you're not going to be able to recreate your entire offensive philosophy with your lineup. You're just not going to be able to. It'd be like the equivalent to a football team, an NFL team, they're a pro I team, and then all of a sudden, no, we're going to be spread. Like, 'cause we got to create. I mean, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. But that's what we fans do, and so it makes it fun. And it was hard.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody nitpicking. I mean, you see the fans say, "Oh, fire Hinch, fire
Yeah.
Harris." I'm like, why?
Nobody's
Like,
no,
why? Like, I
no,
get it that yeah, you wanted more maybe at the deadline, but what did Soros do? I kept
no,
texting him
for
like that.
sure.
If Soros gets
I agree.
the game ender, if he gets the walk off, man, this is going to be awful.
Yeah,
But he never did. He struck
nope,
out a ton. I think he might have struck out at
no.
least 4 times last
There,
night.
it
He
wasn't
really
like
didn't do a whole lot in the series.
No, there were definitely seasons that were guys in it. And actually it worked out for the Tigers. It was a win-win when they traded Yoenis Cespedes for Michael Fulmer, who ended up winning the Rookie of the Year for the Tigers the next year and until he got hurt was pretty good. But Cespedes carried the Mets to the World Series that year. Like you're right. I mean, it happens where those trade deadline deals like
It
carry
does, but there
people,
wasn't
but
a lot of those guys. You brought
no.
up Naylor. Naylor would have been a good addition,
No,
but
right.
there
But
wasn't a
you're
ton
right.
of
So
movement.
it wasn't. So I know people like to hammer on the deadline and say like, oh, would we have done this or we should have done this? But yeah, we know that's no guarantee either. I think, you've brought this up before. I think the injuries to Reese Olson really hampered things. I think guys all of a sudden just, reverting back to the mean at a bad time, we talked about the clutch gene. I think there's more issues there than not getting guys at the deadline.
Yeah.
I do.
And the guy that they did get at the deadline got hurt, and I don't think, and that's Kyle Finnegan, and I don't
Yep.
think he ever got back to what he was pre-injury. That injury really hurt. I mean, I probably say there's 4 things that you can point at. 3 are injuries. The one is out, not at signing Alex Bregman. We've hammered that home a ton. That's clear and obvious that this whole season is probably different if they go the extra mile and get him. They didn't. It is what it is. But then immediately following that, you have Vierling and Meadows get hurt. Yep. And I said at the time, I'm like, you might, because what these injuries were, I'm like, you might never get anything from these guys this season. Like, they might try to come back and they might play a little bit, but you're not going to get 2024, 0.2% run Vierling and Meadows. You're not getting that this year. You're not. And sure enough, you got nothing from Vierling at all. And you got very little from Meadows. He came back basically in September, gave you good defense, but he was nothing at the plate, like nothing at the plate. And that was clear and obvious last night and throughout this playoff run. Like, those injuries, and then the Finnegan injury, as I mentioned, those 4 things. I mean, if they sign Bregman, Vierling doesn't get hurt, Meadows doesn't get hurt, and I would say Finnegan. I didn't even bring up Olson because I think they had enough in the rotation into the playoffs with what Melton was able to do.
So I'm going to add
those other 4 things, like those would have went a different way. It's a completely different run.
I'm going to add another one. Who was the starting American League center fielder in the All-Star game?
No, Javi Baez.
Okay, and I say that because last year when Trey Sweeney played for the big club, like, he didn't tear the cover off the ball, but like, he made some plays, and his wins above replacement when he was in the lineup compared to Javi Baez, I remember that was because Baez wasn't playing at the end of the year last year.
Yeah.
Was much higher, right? Was higher than Baez because I think Baez was in the negative. And I'm not saying Trey Sweeney would have been the difference maker. But like, you didn't get a lot out of him either, like that you did last year.
Yeah.
So you just said Vierling, Meadows, Olson, Trey Sweeney. Like, you got nothing.
And Jackson Jobe, you can.
And Jackson Jobe, you got nothing.
Because he's somebody who probably
correct.
would have tapered down towards the end of the season, but he would have been throwing 100 out of the
coming out of the correct
in the playoffs.
Correct. So those you can't. I mean, nobody's going to want to hear that if Scott Harris talks about that, next week at the end of the season press conference. Nobody's going to want to hear that. But it's true. If anything, maybe it shows the depth of the organization. Because, like, I know you're a big fan of Troy Melton. You brought him up a lot in the last week, and so guys like that. So if
the Tigers would have ended up winning, you could have said he was potentially MVP of the series.
I agree, and this is where this offseason again is going to be fascinating. So, like, you can look at it from 2 different standpoints. You look at it in the immediate, right? It's like, okay, yes, lost a heartbreaker in Game 5 of the ALDS. Let's go get guys now, especially before Skubal probably going to be a hit free agency. Like, let's do this now. But if you're thinking the long game, like, man, I think they're set up to be good for a while. I don't think it doesn't look like they're going to fall off the cliff for a while. And so this offseason, the big thing again that's fascinating to me is we'll know what the organization's mindset is, because we talked about this again. We think Scott Harris believes his championship teams are down the road. So, like, is this one of those years where, like, yes, we say they need an impact bat, or do they think no? Because think about this: in the last 2 years, like, they're still a really young team, right? Like, you can't what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you can't simulate playoff at bats. Like, you can't simulate Game 5, win or go home situations. And so all these guys have now gone through that for 2 years, and that's significant growth there. And so that's what's fascinating to me is, like, okay, are they all in, signing dudes and Bo Bichette, whoever we talk, whoever, are they really going after guys, or is this just going to be like a piece here and there, see guys develop some more and give it your best shot? That's and then what's going to go on with Tarik Skubal?
Yeah,
fascinating.
We'll get to Skubal in a second, but I do want to talk about, just what we see coming for the offseason and what are the key additions that they need. To me, it's obvious, and I think you could see it from last night. They need heart of the order veteran hitters. It doesn't have to be. It could be they could get creative and make a trade. It could be guys like you brought up Adrosny. I think that's a great example of a guy that would be really good here. It's somebody similar to that. It doesn't have to be, a 40 home run guy or something like that, but somebody just because you're consistent professional at bats and can get on base and can get on base when it matters, when it
Yeah.
matters, and get a
Yeah.
guy from second to third, hit a fly ball when it matters. Just
Yeah.
having that understanding of what is needed from him at that particular point and what in that particular at bat. You need, I would say, at least two of those guys. Maybe one of those guys is Veerling. Maybe Veerling will come back healthy. I don't think it is. I think they got to go out and get two guys. I would love to see Bregman and Bichette if they were able, if they were really going all in.
Mhm.
But I don't know if they want to put that much money into it. I don't know if they're going to be able to get both of those guys. But maybe
So
one, and then maybe, like I said, be creative and maybe get a guy similar to a Josh Naylor type.
so let me ask you this, Dan. I'm gonna turn it on you a little bit. Okay. So I know who you want. Like you just mentioned a few guys in the middle of the order guys. Like then who's not on this roster? Like who started last night, who played last night? Like who are guys that you think then are not going to be in the everyday lineup then? Because if we're gonna acquire a couple guys, there are two guys then that aren't in it. So who are two guys that in your mind, like who's out?
Well, that makes it. I would say
Right? Right?
probably somebody like McKinstry is somebody who probably is
Obvious.
not, maybe not on the team anymore, or is
Correct.
in a very
Super
minimized role, isn't a
utility.
starter every day.
Right.
You're gonna have to probably ship a couple guys out. I mean, just to get
Mhm.
guys off the roster. I'm thinking of guys that the guys that I don't think would be starters anymore would be somebody like maybe a Parker Meadows. I think you could
Okay.
probably get something for him with his speed and his defense alone. You might be able to get something for him. In the big one, I mean, I just find it difficult to have both Ryler Green and Torkelson in the lineup, especially padding back to back.
Yep.
I think there has to be some serious thought about shipping one of those two.
I
I'm not saying both of them. I'm not saying both of them have to be gone or one or the
Mhm.
other, but I think one of those guys should probably be highly considered to get dealt.
I think I agree. I think one of the three of Torkelson, Green, and Colt Keith are not on the Tigers.
I don't think Colt Keith, because they have him signed. He's the one guy that they went ahead
Sure.
and signed long term. I think they just are hoping that he's going to continue to develop because he's still young. He's younger than Torkelson
Yeah.
and Green. I think they're hoping for further development from him, and maybe you put him more in the bottom of the order and have him be more of an 8-9 hitter and let him develop because you do have him signed long term. Whereas Green and Torkelson, you're going to have to deal with arbitration and all those things. So
Yeah.
I would say it's more one of those two. If you're gonna deal one of the
Who do you then
big names on your roster, would be one of those two, I think.
Then let me ask you this though, like this I don't think they're gonna sign Torres. I don't think Gleyber Torres is coming back.
No.
So does Colt Keith go to second base? Does somebody else who we're not mentioning that you're
I think he goes
high
back to
on?
the original plan.
Who-
The original plan was for him to be first base
Yeah. There's
this year. They
well,
never thought, they didn't think Torkelson.
No,
I think
no.
in their mind they thought they might be getting rid of Torkelson.
I
And he might not
agree.
make the team.
I agree.
Torkelson had an incredible spring and fought his way back on the roster.
I agree.
But
Is it
he was not in the original plans going into the season.
I wonder and the reason okay, let me ask you this. If we're not Major League Baseball talent evaluators, but of those three, Torkelson, Green, Colt Keith, who do you think is the most valuable? Like if you're an opposing team, you're the Arizona Diamondbacks, and you're like, regardless of their roster construction, you're like, okay, of those three, he's the guy. How would you rank them? I would rank him Colt Keith first. Right.
Man,
I would. So that's why I say I wonder.
Green might still be. I think Green still might be first, and Colt Keith second, Torque third, but he's still got to show me something, man. He's got to show me some consistency.
Well, you just said, you just said he's younger, and they signed him long term.
Yes, and that is the thing. Yeah,
right?
That's why I couldn't quite put him ahead of Green yet, but I think he's close.
Oh goodness.
But to me, they're all one and the same.
They are. I mean, they are.
They're all three of them are. You have the same flaws and the same frustrations that you have.
Yes, and that goes back to everything you said when you brought up and you played the clip on a previous podcast with Scott Harris talking about his philosophy of the strike zone and controlling the strike zone and what it does for your pitchers, but in this case, like your offense and your hitting. And none of those guys, and that's the same with Javier Baez. It's the same with Parker Meadows. Like they don't even Kerry Carpenter to a degree, although we both agree he's coming back. but like, there's not a lot of guys that control the strike zone. There's not,
Yeah.
and
And you look at the
I
minors, and you look at the team
that
in Erie, and what all those prospects do. And you could say, yeah,
all of
maybe
them,
their prospects are playing in the minors, but
but
look at what they do.
but
They
that's
take quality at bats, they draw
correct.
walks, they don't strike out
So,
much.
and that's something, one of my favorite books and one of your favorite movies, Moneyball, right? And they talk about that with the philosophy of taking pitches and things like that. And they tried to, it wasn't guys that they trained that you can really instill that. It's like that's a skill and a talent that like guys have or they don't. It's just
Yeah,
it's you can argue it's a tool, right? And so like, yeah, Scott Harris, those guys that he drafted have that tool and they're going to put the ball in play and not strike out a lot. Where you can't say that for a lot of the guys on the major league roster, who we still talk about aren't his guys.
yeah.
So um,
That's what I would say though. Getting to free agent at bats, whether it's a free agent or by trade, to be that middle of the order guys. And then if you don't want to trade those guys or move some of those guys, a Torkelson, a Green, a Keith, just you move them down in the order. So there's not anywhere near as much pressure on them. And if they're hitting,
agreed.
6, 7, 8, 9, it's just different. You're not expecting
Problem.
as much from them.
So okay, so here's the deal then. Here's I think we're so I keep harping back on roster construction, and so don't be mad at me. But like, so if you're thinking Colt Keith is going back to first base and Torkelson, let's say, is DH, right? Would you say that would make the most sense? Like, let's say those two are the guys. Okay, so like, but those are two positions that typically you get a lot of home runs, right? And you get a lot of RBIs, and you get a lot of OPS. So neither of those two guys. Right? Other than Torkelson's home runs, neither of those guys really was like that elite. Okay, so that eliminates Pete Alonso. That eliminates Kyle Schwarber, right? Like I know you're. I think you're just
Okay.
you're
Well, if you want to go that way, Brian, you can. I'm not saying go away from that, but you're going to have to move those guys then.
right.
That's what you're doing. I
Yeah.
just
So
think
that
the opening is at third. I think the openings are at third and short, which are where Bichette
I
and
think
Bregman
that's the
are. I just think that makes the most sense. Is that
I
those are where their openings are.
agreed. I think
You could move McGonigal if Torres leaves, which I think he will. You move McGonigal to second.
no doubt. Yep, no doubt. I could see something like that happening. Okay, so with that being said, I might be jumping the gun a little bit. So we're putting money into, let's say that happens, right? In a perfect scenario, perfect world, right? You would agree that Bo Bichette, right, and Alex Bregman, boom. Let's say that happens. Are you punting on Skubal 100% is not returning to the Tigers? Like they're going all in for this year,
I
and
think
so
both
Scott
moves are
Harris.
Skubal's back. I mean, not resign. I'm saying Skubal's back for the year.
I think he's back for the year, right? But this is his last season as a Tiger. I think
Yes.
that had yes. Okay. So then then Scott Harris is a liar then because he said there isn't a Skubal window where it obviously is then. Like this is the Skubal window then. We're signing guys and
I'm saying that's what I would do.
Okay.
No, that's what I would do. That's what I want them to do. Now, what I think they're going to do, and let's go ahead and get into it. I think they're going to trade Skubal. I think they're going to trade Skubal. I do. You just brought it up, like him pretty adamantly saying, "Well, I don't believe in a Skubal window." I think most of us do and believe in Skubal window. You've been to the ALDS game 5 2 years in a row. Like you have a team that is good enough. You just need to get over the hump. And I think a couple quality veteran hitters and going all in and getting guys like Bichette and Bregman would put this team over the hump and make them a World Series contender. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to trade Skubal.
So then,
really
so then, in your mind, let me ask you this then. Okay, which I don't necessarily disagree. Like I said, that's why this offseason is going to be fascinating. If that's the case, then are they trading more for more? Are they trading for major league ready or close to major league ready prospects? Are they trading for major league talent now, or are they trading for more guys to put with Max Clark, Kevin McGonigal, Jose Briseño, like those guys? Like, what do you think if they're going to trade Skubal? What's the logic? Because if they trade Skubal, they're not as good a team as they are this past year, unless they go sign a pitcher, which even then they're not signing Skubal. So
I still think they could win the division, though. I know that sounds crazy, but I still think they could win the division.
I agree with that.
Would still put them as being
a playoff
the same team.
I agree with that. And there is some truth to this, and this is this is what's crazy. Like, and again, nitpicking on Skubal, and we don't mean to, right? But like, oh, you lose Skubal, we're done. Well, you just lost both of his starts in the ALDS.
Yeah. You went to
Fair,
game 5. You won 2 games in the
yeah,
series. Those were not Scooble starts.
no, and we talked about we didn't think that would happen.
Yeah.
We both thought if it's going 5, the Tigers are winning. So yeah, oof. But I guess Dan,
Yeah. So you asked me, wait, what do I think that
yes,
Scooble what they would get in a trade? And what they should be going for. It's that part is tough. That part I'm not quite sure where Harris is going to try to go and how you kind of thread that needle with a team. Because if a team's going for Scooble, they're going for it all for 1 year. They're not going to give you major league guys, theoretically, unless it's a real rare trade where you're trading pitching for offense, and the team's doing the reverse. They think they got enough offense. They can send some offense over
right,
because they need that stud ace. I don't think that's happening. I don't think that trade would be out there,
right.
where you could thread that needle and get major league ready offense for your ace.
Yep.
So because it's going to be a team going all in for the 1 year for Scooble, right?
The,
So I think it's going to have to be guys that
well,
are
that's
close to being major league ready, who are top end prospects,
yes.
and then you match them with who I believe Scott Harris believes is his core, is his guys. It's McGonigal, Clark, Brasino, Lorenzo, Max Anderson. You mash them with those guys, and now you got almost a full lineup and maybe a pitcher or two with that group, and now you're set for the next 6-7 years of these guys under team control.
There's going to be a lot of risk, obviously, right? And I wonder what I wonder what teams are willing to give up, knowing it's probably just going to be for a season, right? Because Skubal, I don't think is just going to accept anywhere and say, yeah, I'm signing long term. Like that defeats the purpose of guys getting the opportunity to go to free agency. So I'm curious if that's going to happen. And then obviously as fans, we'd prefer, and I bet you Scott Harris would prefer, trade him to the National League. So then you're talking about teams that
Dodgers and
have
Mets. I think Mets.
that. I think those are
because they're under a whole bunch of heat right now for not making playoffs.
Yep,
They
no
can
brainer.
change the narrative, get the fans
No brainer.
excited. You
No
trade for
brainer.
Scooble.
No
I think that
brainer.
might be the
Yep.
team. I mean, I don't know. I don't know
Yes.
their prospect rankings and things like that.
Of course.
That would seem like a team that would jump out right
No
away
brainer. No
as a
brainer.
team to trade with.
No brainer. I think, yeah, the Mets organization and their fans want them to make an extreme move, and that's one of them. By the way, we did get a comment on Facebook, because I'm looking at Facebook too, and I don't know if you have it up in front of you. Where appreciate it,
Yes.
a listener, Bobby mentions he thinks Hinch is gone, and they need it. I think we both agree that's not happening. There's a lot that we questioned about AJ Hinch, and you more than me, I think, and fair or not, because in baseball, when moves happen and they don't work, right? I mean, you're gonna get it. That's like any sport. When something happens and it doesn't work,
So,
then
real quick, all right. So there was a move that he made last night, and I talked about. I was texting him like, they got to go Jahmai Jones for Carpenter here, right? They got it. And that's the move. That's the move they've made all season, right?
Yep.
And he didn't. He didn't in this instance, and he kept Kerry Carpenter in, and Carpenter hits the 2-run home run.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that's one of those situations where Hinch maybe went with his gut a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, where he didn't just go straight on the matchup.
Yeah.
He went with his gut, and he went with, because Kerry Carpenter was hot, and he stuck with. He's like, that to me, that's a little bit of a hunch move going on. That's a little bit of a Jim Leyland type.
Totally.
And holy cow, didn't pay off, man.
And how many?
I thought that felt like that was going to be the series defining move.
Totally. And how many people are giving him credit for that today? Probably none. Not many are, right? I mean, if they're aware of it.
And people are you even brought up Jahmai Jones. Why didn't they bring in Jahmai Jones? Why didn't bring that was the spot?
That would have been the spot. I think when I brought that up, it was more for I would say Parker Meadows, but then obviously you get some defensive issues, and like we already talked about that. But like, yeah, I agree. That was I think Kerry Carpenter, at least in this series, or at least last night, showed like, yeah, keep me in the lineup against lefties. But
I think he showed a lot.
See, there's something about him.
So he is the guy. It wasn't just a 1-year thing last year against Cleveland. He did it again this year. He is a clutch player.
If we have this conversation 2 months ago, I'm thinking Kerry Carpenter is one of the guys that's not a Tiger. And not because I don't like him, but I just think, well, he's a platoon guy and things like that. But he is a dog. Like that dude, like again, like you just said, clutch moments, man.
Clutch, one of the
That's
very few
yes,
clutch
a
hitters they
dog.
have in that lineup.
And like has a little chip on his shoulder a little bit. Like, the interviews after the Cleveland series and stuff was
Yeah,
I mean pretty cool.
a
Like he
little bit
didn't
of a
go too
swagger
a
to him.
little
Yeah,
bit of a yeah. Like so
not in a
like
bad
yeah,
way, obviously.
not in a bad
Like,
way. No, not a
obviously not
classless.
that type of guy, but just like
No.
he's confident, very, very
Mhm.
confident in himself.
Right,
And
right.
maybe that's, you know, maybe they
But
need
then
a little bit more of that across
yeah.
the line.
Did you okay, and I don't and sometimes it's hard for fans because when we're watching sporting events and let's say um like a player, oh, you want him to be a leader. Well, he's not yelling, he's not loud, he's not getting on guys. Okay, well maybe he's calm and he pulls the guys to the side and says, "Hey, we need to pick it up," or whatever, right? There were some guys though, like when they got in the box last night, you look at their eyes and like
Look a little
some of
gung
them looked a little bit, yes, and that's not a knock on them because I'm sure we would have been too, and that definitely happened, and like and yes, the Mariners
a
Rodriguez
little
is a
too
young
big.
guy too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like we're some guys that's not too big, but it felt like that last night. And again, maybe that's not fair, and that's a harsh criticism. But like you said, 0 for 23 for those core
Yeah.
guys. I
I
mean,
mean,
maybe that
the
might have been a
stats
part of it
speak for
too.
themselves.
Hmm.
The stats speak for themselves.
So, but going
0 and
like
23. That's what I titled the podcast. I mean,
yeah.
that's what's going to come out of this series and out of that game. It is one of the all-time classic Major League Baseball playoff games. And I remember I was texting my brother-in-law Jason. He's like, "Oh man, this is a classic." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
this is either going to be one of the all-time great Detroit sports moments or one of the all-time
Yeah.
worst. There's no in
Like
between." Yeah.
like I said in the beginning, yeah, like yeah, some people felt that way. I did not. I was miserable watching that game. It was gut wrenching. And the only one I remember the closest thing was the 2009 game 163 against Minnesota. And I
Yeah.
remember because there was a hit, there was a chopper the Twins hit up the middle, and the Tigers were like inches away from getting it and getting a double play and winning it, and it got through and the tying run scores and extra innings, and I'm just like, oh, that reminded me of that last night, and that was
Yeah.
that was the closest for me from a Tiger perspective. I'm not talking the other Detroit sports, but yeah, no, I didn't love it. I didn't love it.
Well, yeah, ultimately, but if they win, you're thinking a
Yeah,
little bit
yes, but
differently.
you're right, I do. But yeah, yeah, yeah. But back to your question about Scooble, because again,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
agree.
let's kind of
The
wrap that
most
up a little bit. What do you think? What is your prediction going in this offseason? What do you think is going to happen with Scooble?
oh, I obviously haven't been good with predictions. Like, okay, the fan in me, the childhood fan, right, who loves watching this team and loves cheering for them and in the playoffs and all that, wants them to keep Scooble, sign a few guys, right, and make a run for it. The fan in me, the child, like, yes, I just want to be a fan. Like having now that we're a little bit older and we understand how organizations like grow and like players leave. Like again, it wasn't like it was when I was younger and Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker, and guys stayed for a team the whole time. Um, Knowing and recognizing that like Tarek Skubal isn't going to be a Tiger past 2026. I I I think I agree with you. I think I agree with you that they're going to explore a trade, and
Isn't
the
that
the
painful? Like as a Tiger
it's
fan, like, it's
horrible.
just
It's
brutal.
horrible.
Like,
It is brutal.
he's
But
one of the best players
it's
they've ever had.
I wonder, and like it's easy to jump on the bandwagon and blame Chris Ilitch. But like we talked about how there's going to be labor issues potentially after next season again. It's not my business. Pay a pitcher $400 million is extremely risky, and then like we talked about this too. There's a lot of ways to win baseball games without having that number one ace, right? Like Tarek Skubal is better than anybody on Seattle and Toronto, and one of them is going to be playing for a World Series. So like that that's that's hard, but I think it's a reality. Um, if you can better your team by trading him, that's what's going to happen. And I agree with you.
And I think the fact that Troy Melton, and I would include Carter Montero as
Hmm.
well, I thought really showed themselves in this playoffs. I thought Carter Montero got a raw deal all year. I thought, man, why don't you just let him be the fifth starter? Especially when
Yeah.
Joe went down. I
Yeah.
thought, just let Montero be the fifth starter. They're okay. Yeah, this sucks, man, Jackson Joe, but this feels like just kind of standard procedure now for pitchers, going through. You got to go through a Tommy John at a
Yeah.
young age. It just seems like it is what it is, unfortunately.
I wonder,
But you expected that. But when that happened, I thought, man, okay, we're good. Montero's been
I
the sixth
wonder.
guy. We always thought if it was an injury, it was going to be Montero, and we're good. And they just never really gave him the spot.
No, and I wonder. So when I went to Toledo. I took my daughter to a Mud Hens game, and he was the starter. Montero was the starter of that game, and I wonder if like maybe there's a pitch or two they wanted him to develop on, right? Something like that. You never know. You don't know, but that is a good question. Yep, but that is a great question.
I think he proved himself to everybody. I mean,
No doubt.
you can't get any higher pressure moments than that.
No
And
doubt.
he performed. He kept performing. And then obviously Melton was incredible. We couldn't have expected that. Like, I thought he has all the talent, but man, to have the stones to come through in those pressure moments when he gave up the leadoff double,
correct,
with the season on the line, and he had to get 3 straight outs, man.
Correct.
Holy cow, did he come through?
I thought it was pretty cool, and I like seeing athletes when they do this because I struggled like that, as you know, coaching with me. I struggled sometimes to keep my cool until I got a little bit older. But like, he's 24 years old, 25 years old, and after that inning, they showed him in the dugout, sitting with his eyes closed, just breathing. I was like, all right, that's pretty
meditating.
Pretty
Reminded
badass.
me a lot
JJ
of
McCarthy.
JJ McCarthy.
Pretty badass. Like,
kinda
just
looks
like
him a little bit too.
He does. It's crazy. Yeah, just kind of like, okay, we're good. Like, I'm locked in. It's just, it's pretty cool. So that was pretty cool. I agree.
But I bring up those two guys because if they do trade Skubal, and you don't know what they're going to do with Flaherty. I don't think Flaherty's going to be back. He's a free agent.
No.
I'd be surprised, especially if they do trade Skubal, because I think that was a large part of Flaherty coming back was to partner with Skubal again for another year. You feel a little bit better with what the rotation can be in the short term without Skubal. Obviously, Mize would bump into the ace spot, and let's get into that real quick before we come. I do want to talk about Casey Mize.
Yep.
And I'll get back into the kind of what the rotation could look like without Skubal. But Casey Mize, both his playoff starts, gets taken out after 3 innings. I was there for game 4 at Comerica, and everybody around me was and I saw it on Twitter and everything. What are they doing? What are they doing? And I'm thinking to myself, you're putting yourself in the exact same situation that you did against Cleveland, where you're going to have to burn your top bullpen guys early. And that's exactly what they did. They burned Holton. They burned Finnegan. And you're in the 5th inning, and you already burned 2 of your top 3 relievers. What are you going to do? And that's when Melton came in. And really, in my opinion, we brought up the comment, like Hinch needs to be fired, and we're hearing a lot of that. But I do get some. I think that's crazy for Hinch to be fired. But I do understand some of the criticism, because I was very critical in my seat watching that. I'm like, you're going to do this again? You're going to let this play out again? And it was playing out the same way. And Melton had to come back in that same situation that he did in Cleveland. And if he had given up a couple runs and the Tigers lose that game and the season's over, and you lose the same way you did against Cleveland, like, Hinch would be he's getting some heat now. He would have gotten a ton of heat, and justifiably so.
Yeah,
Melton saved him.
Yep.
But I'm wondering why?
So I don't know.
Mize has been an all-star. Mize has been great all year. I mean, he had a little bit of a slump in the second half, but I thought he kind of bounced back his last couple starts of the regular season. I'm wondering why he's getting taken out after 3 innings in his 2 playoff starts.
I don't know if you saw Hinch's his follow-up comments to that when he was asked about that, and he said that he explained to Casey Mize in the tunnel, right, that like we wanted them to see a bunch of different looks, right? It was one of those kind of games, and maybe that was the plan ahead of time, and I think you wonder, like, overall what they all think about Casey Mize then too. With that,
that's what I'm worried about.
Because again, he's not a Scott Harris guy. He had that injury early on, and there were those questions coming out, like his form and his follow through and everything was kind of funky, and he was injury risk, and that's of course what happened. And so to me, like, I think on most teams, Casey Mize is probably a 3, as it is starter, and so that spoke volumes. To your point, it spoke volumes, and that might have been the plan all along. To do that with Casey Mize, but
because the reason I bring that up, because we're talking about what the rotation would look like if Skubal does get traded, and assuming they don't get some guys that are immediately ready to go, they don't get a starter in the package that they would get back. In my mind, Mize would be the obvious guy to move to the ace position, but my concern would be, so do they think he's that guy? Do they
Right.
think
No,
he's got
maybe
the stuff to do that?
no, maybe so okay, so then you're right. So we would assume then that they would have to acquire somebody who to give him some innings because Reese Olson, even though he's expected to be back, he's coming back from an injury. You're still not going to have Jackson Job. I think we agree. I agree with you when you said Flaherty's probably not returning. I don't think so. Troy Melton maybe goes into that role. Kaiser Montero maybe goes into one of the five starter spots, and then maybe they do a better job of getting bullpen help. So you're not going to then ask your starter to go deep into games. Maybe you have a legit bullpen, like a pitcher gets you five or pitches into the sixth. You have enough bullpen depth to help you out throughout the season. Maybe they go that route, which could be something. Because I don't think there's anybody ready right now at AAA pitching perspective who's going to come up, right, or AA or whatever.
Only one they really only have one. It's Andrew Sears who pitched for
right.
Erie down the stretch. He pitched
Yeah, but
I think the final game for
yeah,
Erie. But
yeah.
they really don't have a lot. I mean,
They don't.
Melton and Job were the ones,
right,
and they're already obviously up, and Job's out for next year.
right. So it's that's a great. I mean, that's a great point. I think if they deal Skubal, either a starter is coming back in return, who's probably going to be like a maybe number three on most teams at best, or they're gonna have to sign somebody, or which. Okay, it's gonna go back to my final question for you is like we talked about, like Scott Harris, his history. Okay, his draft picks, he's drafted a lot of high school guys, he's drafted a lot of young guys for long term down the road we're thinking success, right? So Dan, is he gonna?
I think it's a rebuilding year.
Is it like I think like, okay, saying that, we've both agreed we think they're ahead of where Scott Harris probably thought they would be.
Yes.
Right? Okay, they're ahead of that. So does he feel the pressure to, like we said, go big and go all in, right? Or does he stick to that plan? Like that's where again,
but can't you do both?
Fascinating.
That's what I've been saying. That's what I was saying going into this year. Why can't you do both?
I don't know.
You have all these prospects. You already have the number one farm system.
Yeah.
Like you already have the number one farm system. You didn't train them. You didn't train for a reason. Fine.
Yeah.
Now go all in. That gives you an opportunity. If they had a really bad farm system like in the 20s, then I think you'd have to trade Skubal to try to replenish that and have young guys coming up. But you don't. You have the number one farm system. These guys are going to be coming up year after year. You know, over the next 2 to 3 years, these guys are going to be coming up. Hopefully, a couple of them, at least McGonigal next year, right at the start. So you're good. You got the farm system. You got the young guys that you want. But you have this situation at the other end. You have this situation where you have Tarik Skubal, the best pitcher in the world.
Yes,
I think have a team that got you with Tarik Skubal. We have a team that got you to Game 5. You were a hit away from going to the ALCS.
Yeah.
Now go get those two hitters. Go get those two hitters. You don't have a lot of free agents. You have Torres and Flaherty. Let's assume they don't trade Skubal, right? Flaherty's gone. You just you replace him with Melton in the rotation, and then Montero's in there as well. Like you're good. Like you're good. Go get those two hitters and let's go. Let's go win this thing.
I did say this is a possibility too. If they don't trade Skubal this offseason, if things let's say they decide to make a run next year and for whatever reason it's not working out, because again it happened, you can always deal Skubal at the deadline. His value is obviously a little bit less. I don't see the Tigers necessarily being that far out, right? That they would be in that position.
Not in this division.
Not in this division. You wouldn't think, but that's a possibility. Yeah.
That is the fallback.
I'm kind of talking myself out of it. You're right. You're right.
But that is a good point though, because that would be the fallback plan. If you do go all in and it falls apart in the first half, injuries, what have you.
Of course.
Then you still got that. You still got the opportunity to trade Skubal. You're not going to get nearly as much as you would have in an off-season trade, but you're still going to get quite a bit because there's going to be, because now you can really have the teams battle it out. You know, if you could be you at that point, you wouldn't really care who he goes to, right? Because you're out of it. So
I agree.
You would have the Red Sox and Yankees battling it out to try to get, the Mets, the Dodgers, all those teams at the trade deadline. You could still probably get a good
I agree.
trade package. If that's like your fallback plan, your plan B if things fall apart.
Do you know what's funny to think about is you mentioned a little bit ago, like in this division, even without Skubal, you think the Tigers will be contenders or win it. Like they haven't won it the last 2 years.
I
They
know
haven't even
they
won
made
the. I
the
mean,
playoffs.
it's not like in my mind, I was literally about to comment. I still think, yeah, the Tigers can own the Central for a long time. They haven't owned it the last two
They
years.
haven't won it yet. They haven't
God,
won it. It's a good point.
you
They've been
know,
right there, but yeah, they
they've been
haven't
right
won it.
there, but they haven't. Oh yeah, like the teams
It
that
feels
you
like
know,
they won it, even
it
with the
feel of course.
collapse, because
Yes,
and I'm
yes.
really happy they got to play Cleveland in the first
Oh,
round
same.
because it
Yes.
really took a
If
lot of the sting from the
yes,
collapse to be able to
no
beat
doubt.
Cleveland. If nothing else, because it feels like they won it. It feels
It
like they won
does.
the
And
division because at the
Cleveland,
end
and
they're the ones that were still
it's
playing.
it's so funny. Cleveland fans that I've seen on Twitter, they're like, "Oh, well, you all you did was won 2 out of 3, but that'll never take away the collapse of the end of the season, and we still get to hang the banner and things like that." It's like, okay, that's what they're hanging on. Like, I
Whatever.
obviously you'd rather,
Okay,
but
whatever.
you know who they
Tigers won the
sound.
playoffs.
Yes, you know who they sound like. They sound like Michigan fans that we've talked
Oh
about.
yeah,
Who, oh, we won the game. It's like, what do you mean? We just, yeah, it's,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that's true.
Well,
Who would
Detroit didn't
you?
win it all though, so they don't have that
No,
track
that is
record.
true. No, that is true. That is true. Cleveland that'll be an interesting thing with what they do, because like you want to talk about cheap ownership. Like again, they
Yeah.
they have the best player besides Bobby Witt Jr. You could argue. I think Jose Ramirez Jr. might be a little bit, or Jose Ramirez might be a little bit better, barely. But like you
Well,
got the
look at the
best.
move. Well, yeah, look at the
Hmm.
moves that they did make that backfired. They
Yeah,
traded Naylor
they
for Ortiz, and Ortiz goes out with
they
the gambling
did.
scandal. Imagine
Yes.
if they had Naylor in that series.
Yeah. Yeah.
They desperately needed hitting, and man, Naylor could have made a big difference for them.
Is our conversation different if the Tigers don't blow the division? Like, let's say they win it by 5 or 6 games, they make it to this point, lose game 5. Is our conversation different at all?
I think it's the same.
Going into this
I think it's the
offseason, do
same
you?
because I really do feel like it didn't. In my mind, it doesn't even feel like they lost a division. I mean, we were talking like they had won it.
No,
We
I
were
know.
referencing things, you know
But
what I
like,
mean? Because it feels like they did because they beat Cleveland.
let's say it's not a complete collapse. Let's say they win by 5 or 6 easily, and those end of the season series don't mean anything. Is it different? Does it ramp up even more the hey man, we got to win now, right?
Go all in and win.
Let's go all in. Does it change it
No,
at
because I
all?
think this even makes it more to go because I think it makes it's clear and obvious. It's neon flashing signs in front of us what they need. And last night was everything. It showed you everything. They are a very, very good baseball team, but they lack heart of the
Are
order hitting. They
are
need
they
two quality hitters to take this team over the hump.
are they getting the same contributions from all those guys that they got this year? Like especially early in the season. That's a question. It's hard to predict future
You
success.
can play that
Meaning,
game though. Then like maybe they get some of their
but
bullpen guys that they
oh,
didn't have. Maybe Foley comes back. You can play that
yes,
game
but
the other way too.
but it's important though in this sense because like you got career years out of guys. I feel like McKinstry, like was that a career year out of Casey Mize? Is he getting much better than what he did? Like we just talked about that. You're not getting much better from McKinstry. Are you getting much better from Javi Baez anymore?
You
Like
might get close to what you got
you might,
because he was very up and down. It's just kind of what he is.
you
He's
might.
going to have stretches where he's great. He's going to have stretches where he's not
So,
great,
by
and
the way, just
it's kind of
okay,
what he was.
and it just popped into my head thinking of free agents. You know who I think is an important free agent. We said Gleyber Torres probably not returning. I'm okay with that. Jack Flaherty not returning. I'm okay with that. Finnegan is a free agent. He's a guy I think I liked him and I liked what he brought
Yeah,
to the Tigers. And like you mentioned before he got hurt, he was really good and he was the one acquisition that was like solid. He's a guy I hope they resign. He's a guy I hope
yeah.
they really press to
He's a
resign.
local guy too, so I think
Yeah.
there's probably a good chance they could
Mhm.
bring him back.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
assuming everything went well, and I
Right.
no reason to not think it didn't.
Right.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy that I would want back, and I think they
Right.
probably could bring back.
Good. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, like I said, man, I think we're headed for one of the more fascinating off seasons we've seen in a long time around here. So many huge questions. Tarek Skubal, are they going to go out all in? Are they going to try to build more around their core that's coming up? A lot of tough decisions for Scott Harris, and his legacy is going to be forged, I think, really in this off season because there's a lot of tough decisions he's got to make. He hasn't had to make the big tough decisions. He hasn't been. And we can talk about whether he got the money from Illich or not. He didn't get the deal done with Bregman.
No.
And that could have been a situation where maybe he tried to ask Illich for more and he didn't get it. I don't know. We don't know all the closed door meetings, but all we know, he didn't get that deal done.
Yeah.
Right. And he hasn't made the big trade yet. So this is going to really forge his legacy, I think, this offseason.
Do you think people will be extremely disappointed if they come out next week in their meeting and they're just like, yeah, we're still going to develop guys. We still want guys to right. Okay, like I can't imagine.
So that's another path
because
they better bring up young guys. They better give the prospects every opportunity to win spots in strength training.
Because game 4 that you attended, and you told me game 3, the atmosphere and everything was just insane, right? Even after the rain delay and everything. And then game 4,
the first couple of things.
Right.
And then it was dead. Then it was
right. Yeah. And then game 4, granted, again, it was 3:00 or whatever, but it wasn't a sellout. And
first
people are which is in a way embarrassing, and people are criticizing the Tiger fans for that. However, I do get the work thing, but even more so, I think it's because people gave up and were like, nope, they're not right. And that's the bigger thing. And then if you do nothing this offseason, they're really not showing out next year.
One more thing about that too, right? They gave up because who are the stars?
Yeah.
Not many.
Correct.
Skubal and I don't think Torkelson and Green are stars. Those are your top guys.
Yes.
Right? They don't have stars. When you had in 06, it was Maglio, it was Verlander, it was Granderson, it was Zumaya, and then the later years of Verlander, it was Prince Fielder, it was Cabrera, it was you got Victor Martinez, just guy after guy after guy that you go up and see. Who are you going to see?
Yeah,
you're going to see Skubal, and if it's not a Skubal start, who are you going to see?
Cool.
It's guys that strike out a whole hell of a lot in big opportunities.
Correct.
It's guys that went 0 for 23 of the biggest game of the year. It's I think I can't say it enough. I think everything screams go out and get 2 star hitters.
I worry because again, I worry. It just boggles my mind when you look at this roster and where they finished overall with certain statistics. I saw runs scored or overall offense, whatever, 17th, where they started the year really well, but ended up 17th, right? Is this roster going to do again what they did 3 years in a row? You know what I mean? Because if the wild cards aren't in place, right? Is this more than the Tigers aren't a playoff team the last 2 years? Is this a different conversation, right? Is it still, well, they, you know what I mean? They need to, what do they need to take that next step? Because you can fall back on, hey, it's been great, playoff team. This is good, but we got to take that regardless. I think we both agree. We anticipate them doing something to take the next step.
Yeah. I mean, they better.
Yeah.
I don't think they're.
I worry about.
I think you can. I really think you can thread the needle and do both. Where you have this core come in, but you also have an opportunity to go for it all. And they got to go for it all. You cannot tell the fans that you cannot go and trade Skubal and then not go get a couple big time hitters and say, hey, we're leaning on the core after you just went to the playoffs twice.
No, because
you cannot do that to the fan base who's already frustrated and already not selling out a playoff game. You cannot do that from I think from a competitive standpoint, but also from a business standpoint. I don't think you can do that.
For sure, because think about it. Apathy is the worst form of fan dejection, right? That they can show more than anything. And fans have been apathetic since 2016 until the last couple of years. And so you don't want to go back to that. You don't want to be pissed off and do something else. But
I agree.
Great episode, man. This was a great talk.
Yeah, we can wrap it up. We went pretty long today talking Tigers, but this was I think this was, we talked about a lot, but I think a vent session for both Brian and I after incredibly disappointing game last night. It was an all-time classic. Brian does not put it in an all-time classic, but I think everybody nationally does put that game as an all-time classic. But it is another one of those you chalk up to one of those Detroit sports nightmares of a game, man. There's a lot. We've had a lot of them, but you don't get those. You don't get Detroit sports nightmare games, I call them, unless you're in the position to play in the big games. And 2 years in a row now, the Tigers have put themselves in the position to play in big games and big, meaningful games. And it's been an incredibly exciting run. We've kind of built up Michigan sports entertainment the last 3-4 months on the back of this Tigers run. And I want to thank all you guys that out there have been on us and continue to be on this ride with us. Brian and I are going to continue to cover Tigers here and there. Obviously, when big off-season moves happen and when the winter meetings happen, we'll have some big Tigers podcasts. But this podcast and this site is going to be more shifting towards football here. So here for the fall. So we got Lions football, we got Michigan football, and we're going to touch a little bit on Michigan State because, oh boy, they're a little bit of a struggle over there with the green and white. So for Brian Barnes, I'm Dan Murphy. It's been another edition of Inside the Coach's Office, and we'll see you again down the road.